back to the Early Weigh-In podcast. Here this week to break down UFC Vegas 64. What was supposed to be Bryce Mitchell versus Movsar Evloev now turns into a 5-rounder here at women's strawweight between Marina Rodriguez and Amanda Lemos. Still a great fight, man, between two really good girls, potential number one contender, implications on the line. In our co-main event, we got a rescheduled bout from a few weeks ago between Magny, Daniel Rodriguez. Brings us up to a total of 13 fights this Saturday, prelim starting at 4 p.m. Eastern. I think there's a few spots here you and I are looking to hit, kind of get back on track, see where some value is here. Before we get started, do us a quick favor, like the video, sub to the channel. We're at $2.99. Be nice to hit a little 300 this week here. Last week, night that easily want to forget for the both of us. You know, screwed by the judges, both finished off in the red, but looking to get back, start a streak to end the year, man.
Yeah, man, this one's the casual cat that stings the most. Is neither one of us come out profitable. I'm on a 5-week losing streak. I really need to break this. We'll take a look at your card first. Your night started off good. You had Christian Rodriguez wins inside the distance at even money. He made that look really, really easy. He looked like the minus 400 favorite. From that point out, it was not good. You had looks like 3 units on Josh Friend. Trayshawn Gore came out as a D1 wrestler. Nobody knew that was going to happen. He looked good. And then Dustin Jacoby, we'll get into that more. Judges didn't help us that night. You ended up the night minus 3.7 units. Taking a look over at my card, I had my biggest bet of the night on Dustin Jacoby. We already mentioned it. We had it closer to 30-27 Jacoby than we had Khalil winning. It is what it is. Variance hopefully will come back around. I parlayed Chase Hooper. Shout out Kelton on MMA Twitter. You know, I parlayed Chase Hooper and I hate myself for it, man. I'm really upset about that one. The Tim Means play, I don't know, man. He fought for my money. I guess I'm happy with that. But all around, complete reverse sweep. I ended up the night minus 6.06 units. Some pretty tough losses, but looking to bounce back. Our main event takes place in the strawweight division. We have Marina Rodriguez taking on Amanda Lemos. Rodriguez coming into this matchup on a 4-fight win streak she's been able to put together since suffering her first loss to the strawweight champ, Carla Esparza. Amanda Lemos coming off her second-round finish over the Karate Hottie and has managed to put together an impressive 5-1 record since moving down to strawweight in the UFC, her true weight class. I think you could definitely view this fight as a title eliminator. Truthfully, you know, I'm tired of seeing Rose and Wei Li fighting for the belt, and it's nice to see this new blood, legitimately have a reason to be thrown into the conversation. Lemos has kind of climbed the ranks as one of the more devastating finishers in the strawweight division. She throws with bad intentions until she met with Jessica Andrade. She wasn't really met with much resistance, climbing up through the ranks. Sort of expected from power punchers just in general. Lemos has shown that her cardio takes a hit as the fight extends, and I think the most obvious knock on her in this spot is whether or not she's going to be able to hold up for 5 rounds against Marina Rodriguez, who's shown multiple times in the UFC that she can go 25 minutes. If Rodriguez had ever shown durability issues in the past, I think I'd be a little bit more worried about the finish coming from Lemos. That being said, I haven't seen Marina show any durability issues, and when she does take big shots, she eats them with relative ease. I think as the fight extends, if Rodriguez can keep this fight on the feet, Lemos will start to tire more and more, and she starts to lose head movement as the fight continues. Marina Rodriguez, she's able to keep that technical striking over the course of 25 minutes, and I think that those straight shots down the middle are really going to pay dividends as the fight goes later on. I'm currently kind of looking at Marina Rodriguez by TKO. I think that Lemos' defense is going to suffer dramatically as the fight extends, and I think that Rodriguez will start to find that distance. I'm on the Marina Rodriguez side. I actually think that the odds are where they should be, but I don't think that this fight goes to the judges, whether it's Lemos catching her early or Rodriguez picking her apart as the fight goes late. I don't think that we're going to have to get the judges involved. That being said, it's a 115-pound girl, so take that with a grain of salt. How do you see this fight going?
I'm going to come out on the same side of you as well, man. But, when I was running tape back on him, we always talk about Amanda Lemos being 35, trying to need to get the ball rolling if she's going to do anything. But, man, Marina Rodriguez, 35 years old as well, was quite shocking to me. But you're right, looking to make it 5 in a row, really knocking on the door of a title shot with the victory here. Your last loss to the current champ. And that style is really the hole in Marina's game, and it's going to take an excellent wrestler like that. I don't know. Lemos definitely has the grappling edge, I would say here, but I don't know if she's got that big of a wrestling threat that, we're going to see her have the same kind of success Carla Esparza had. And on the feet, both girls are excellent Muay Thai strikers. You talk about Amanda Lemos, though, a little bit more winging shots, a little bit more power. I think, the volume and the more technical edge we're going to see coming from Marina Rodriguez. Like most people, I think she's going to have to weather the early storm and take over down the stretch here. More experience in 5-round fights, a much bigger strength to schedule. And if she has it this way, man, she's just going to pepper her on the way, pepper her on the feet, stretch this fight out. And I'm agreeing with you. I understand the line movement toward, people driving this number up. But with Lemos, she can be a motherfucker, man. Nasty calf kicks, big power for the weight class. You talked about running into Andrade. For me, she kind of lost the hype a little bit in the Angela Hill fight, Yeah. She's sure she can beat Lavinia Souza. Sure she can beat Montserrat Ruiz. But she comes in there and arguably might lose a fight to Angela Hill. In the same breath, I do want to say she front kicked Angela in the face and went for the finish. And maybe that did eat out a little bit of the cardio. But lost it a little bit there. And then loses to Andrade. And you go watch the Watterson fight. She does find the finish in round 2, but you look at the judges' scorecards, and 2 of the judges do give that to Michelle Watterson for round 1 off the pure basis of pretty much volume, all the push kicks, the front kicks, and you can kind of just see Marina kind of following the same game plan, frustrating Lemos at range, and then you bring up the fact that it is her first time having to go 5 rounds. If it's a high-paced fight, you definitely favor Marina there. 4 or 5 decision props, always on there on FanDuel. You get your championship rounds, you get the finish. Curious to see what that is because FanDuel's yet to have props out for us, which Wednesday afternoon is pretty crazy. But looking to probably get on that, man. But yeah, I think this is Marina Rodriguez. In our co-main event, we have Neil Magny taking on Daniel Rodriguez. Fight postponed about a month here. Tapology has an elbow infection listed for D-Rod as the reason for the postponement. For Neil Magny, he's been a moneymaker for me in the past. I've cashed plus money tickets against Jeff Neal, Lee the Leech. I got like minus 130 against a Rocco Martin. But then I also remember sweating like a minus 200 ticket against Max Griffin really bad. And, I'll give him a pass for the Shavkat fight, who's one of the best welterweights on the planet right now. But the Max Griffin really, really left a stale taste in my mouth as that was the level of opponent that I thought, Magny could kind of make it look easy. The guy's now 35 years old, more than 25 UFC fights. I think he's making like his 26th or 27th walk. He is Elevation Fight Team, so, man, I can guarantee Neil Magny's going to come out with a good gas tank. But, man, as far as the other aspects, things look to be slowing down for a little bit for Magny on my end. I think the footwork's a little bit worse. I think the guy looks a little bit more hittable, getting out grappled a whole lot easier, and he's just getting off to like slow starts and having to bank on winning rounds 2 and 3, to come back and win. And it just kind of looks like these fight miles are adding up for him. Where, D-Rod 35, just half the fight miles on him. But I can say much of the very same thing. Not impressed with his last performance either. But I have a little bit more excuses from him. He was coming off a big-time layoff. He has an opponent change in like 24 hours, taking on the Leech. And you see the interview where he said he was basically stung and hurt every time the Leech hit him and just made him real gun-shy. I don't think he's going to have that, problem here with the power of Neil Magny. I think he's going to be able to close that distance a little bit more, throw the boxing in tight where he's going to have the big advantages, on the inside. But I bring up the fight with Nicholas Dalby because I see D-Rod just get frustrated out at range with someone who throws a little bit more volume than him, some kicks, and just kind of frustrates him with volume. And Neil having that 2-inch height advantage, a 6-inch reach advantage, a better gas tank. I think that's the side that I'm going to end up coming out on is Neil Magny. Even with the rebooking and the extra time for tape study, though, it's hard to get a real confident read, man. You have a side here?
So I'm kind of on the opposite side of breaking down Neil Magny fights. Truthfully, it goes for most of the fights that I broke him down. I just have a difficult time getting a read on him. In this matchup, I think we're going to see a close 15-minute war. Both guys have shown quite a bit of durability. I know Magny coming off the Shavkat, that's you kind of throw that one out the window. Shavkat's the future. But if this fight goes the way that Neil Magny, I think, wants it to, I think that we're going to see a lot of time spent inside the clinch up against the cage and trying to take away some of that power of Rodriguez. Rodriguez, I kind of think his main goal should be looking to stay on the outside, establish his jab, and set up those power shots, as I do think that he's the much more refined striker and has a significantly higher output on the feet. Magny, much longer of the two fighters, which I think is going to come. It's going to be different for Rodriguez. Rodriguez usually has the size advantage over his opponents. And I would suggest waiting until weigh-ins to make a bet on either side. First, because of the size difference of Magny, it could be much more pronounced than the 2 inches that we're seeing on paper. And secondly, you touched on it a little bit, the elbow infection that got moved out a month. We saw it in the TJ Dillashaw fights. There's usually a lot more behind the scenes going on, and not a lot of times do fights get moved back for an achy elbow or something that isn't serious. So, depending on the actual injury of Daniel Rodriguez, I have a hard time believing that he was able to make a full recovery in just a month, or even have the ability to prepare 100% for what is definitely going to be his toughest UFC opponent to date. Magny, I do feel like, has more tools to win this fight, which is why I'm kind of leaning on the side of him. I do think that on the feet, it's going to be close. I believe that Magny would prefer to get this fight in the clinch and on the ground if he can. So that being said, I'm going to slightly edge Neil Magny here, but I would not be placing a bet on it myself. My fight of the night takes place in the lightweight division between Marco Madsen taking on Grant Dawson. Killer fight between two of the more dominant guys in the division who have flown under the radar while still picking up wins in such a talent-stacked division. Both guys heavy wrestlers, and I'm curious to see if it's going to pan out how these odd makers believe it will. Both guys averaging close to 4 takedowns per 15 minutes, which is insanely high, and it's not really a question of when the grappling will come, or if the grappling will come into play, but rather when it will. With Marco Madsen, he's definitely the more refined of the two, being that he does have more grappling experience and is more credentialed. That being said, Dawson being a decade younger, I think that it will be a huge advantage to him in the cardio. And even though Madsen does have the technical advantage in pure grappling, I do think that Dawson's style is much more fitting for MMA. Dawson, he does a better job when the fight is on the feet, setting up his takedowns with his hands and relying much less on actually completing the takedown than Madsen. A lot of the time with Madsen, we see much more control-based style of groundwork, which is one of the reasons I don't want to pick him as a dog straight up here. Because of the lack of finishing upside that he has, I feel like there's a lot more value on Madsen by decision. Because if Madsen does find success in the grappling, I think it would be wise of him to kind of focus more on staying on top and winning those minutes, which we kind of see with a lot of the Olympic-style wrestlers like your girl, Sarah McMahon and Marco Madsen here. I think where Dawson is going to be looking to capitalize is on the bad takedown attempts that Madsen will have as the fight comes later. I definitely think that there will be a time early in the fight where Dawson's kind of caught off guard with the strength of Madsen, and the first round could find himself on bottom. But because of the lack of offensive weapons that Madsen has, I could see Dawson getting a read somewhere early in the second and really start to punish him as Madsen starts to run out of ideas after the takedowns stop becoming so easy. Huge step up for Madsen at 38 years old, and it's probably a spot where I see his O go. I do think that there's a lot of potential for Dawson to get the finish. So if you're looking on the Madsen side, I already touched on it, but the Madsen decision only, I do think that that's the only way that he's going to get this done. He just doesn't have very many finishing threats. Officially, I'm going to be taking Grant Dawson, but if you are looking on the Madsen side, that's what I suggest.
Yeah, man. So picking some close fights for your fight of the night lately. I told you this reminds me straight up of Malkoun versus Maximov all over again. It's guys who rely on basically their grappling to have any success, very wrestling heavy in their approach. And these two guys very similar in having bad gas tank issues in the past. Madsen's supposed to fight Drakkar close here. Drakkar called him out and then pulled out, but I mean, the only reason I really even bring it up is because that is a completely different style of fighter than what Grant Dawson's going to be coming in here with, and it's something that Mark's had to completely switch his camp up for the last couple of weeks. Grant Dawson, much better grappler than Drakkar Klose, and 10 years younger than Mark. Man, he can push that wrestling pace like you talked about. You talked about it, much better adaptive style from MMA. I think it's probably just better jiu-jitsu and stuff as well. Like once a fight hits the mat, I think Grant Dawson has much more tools to finish the fight. But it's real hard for me to get a comfortable read on because is Dawson really gonna out grapple the Olympic silver medalist? I don't know. And if it stays on the feet like the Guida fight did, I can't really comfortably say either one of these has the striking to run away with it. Because neither one of them really impressed me too much on the feet. Dawson has a minus 230 though. Is where I can't really get to. You're looking at 34% implied odds on Mark Madsen, but I kind of have laid off for the same reasons. We're talking about a 38-year-old with no finishing upside really. So do you really want to gamble? Do you want to roll the dice there? Grant Dawson switched the camp ups to American Top Team now. He's no longer at Glory MMA. He's posting pictures with Mike Brown, Poirier, Gamrot, Movzar, you name it. So at 28, this guy's making the improvements. Grant Dawson, probably who I'm going to side with as well. For my fight of the night, I took Mario Bautista versus Benito Lopez. I think it's a bantamweight fight, man, flying way underneath the radar. I do not think the judges are needed here. We got a 10-2 versus a 10-1 prospect here. Bautista, the one on the 2-fight win streak currently, is coming off a round 1 finish over Brian Kelleher. Looked incredible, man. So fast on the feet. Forward pressure, was doubling up the jab. Phenomenal entry on the takedown. Took the mount over Kelleher beautifully, locked up the rear naked choke before Kelleher could even defend it. Young guy training out of the MMA lab. He's won 4 of his last 5, and even that one loss to Trevin Jones. He looks stellar round 1, and even in round 2 until Trevin Jones just catches him with a nice shot. Bautista's got a phenomenal calf kick, loves to set up stuff like the flying knee, and the speed advantage he has over Benito here is going to be just absolutely massive. The guy's finished a ton of his professional wins, and I expect him to come out here and try to jump on Benito early before he kind of knocks some of that rust off. Benito's been sidelined for more than 3 years now. Last fought in July of 2019. Guy's been dealing with some injuries on the side and was formerly at Team Alpha Male. And, man, looking through social media, I can't find any picture to indicate that he's, been training there in the 3-year layoff, much less he's really been training, period. You look on his social media as well, looks like he's just trying to get started into his real estate career. And my 2 cents about the whole thing is you don't make money right away as a realtor. You need a nice little paycheck while you're not going to be selling houses and getting your name out there. And he only knows fighting. Other than that, man, I think that's why he's coming back for a paycheck. It could be the case of he's 28 and maybe he's made those improvements. Just don't see it, man. I think Bautista is a much better striker, the much better grappler. I got him in a parlay with Miranda Maverick. A lot of confidence on him. I think he goes out there and puts Benito Lopez away.
I'm glad you picked it for your fight to watch. I think it's going to be much closer than these odds are showing, but I'm with you. I think that Bautista has all the skills and definitely has shown the more recent ability to put them all together in the UFC octagon. Like you said, jumping out early on him is going to be key as Benito is knocking off that rust. He's a huge 125er if he's able to make. Well, is this fight not at 130 or 125? 135. Okay.
5'10".
Still, yeah, he's a 5'10" bantamweight, so he's going to be bigger than Bautista, which might be a little bit of an obstacle early. But I'm with you. I think Bautista should get it done. Okay, so for my fighter to watch, if you've been watching the show at all for any amount of time, you'll know that if this girl's on the card, she is usually my fighter to watch. Polyana Viana. She is coming off of a loss to Tabitha Ritchie, and at 30 years old, she's 3-4 in the UFC, and she absolutely needs to put together a couple of wins if she wants to stay on the roster. Outside of her looks, she's an extremely exciting fighter to watch. She is going to bring it in that first round, and any girl needs to be on their best game in that opening 5 minutes. After that, she does tend to tail off, and she lacks the tools to kind of get the fight to the mat or in the positions that she wants. I think that she's going to have to have a lot of defensive wrestling in this fight, as I do think that Jinh Yu Frey is going to be looking to take the fight to the ground. So hopefully her grappling defense holds up here, and that's why she's my fighter to watch. Is she definitely needs to pick up a win here.
I mean, I could see a first-round armbar right all over again if Jinh Yu Frey decides to take this fight down. Fighter for me, I'm going to go with Jake Hadley. The UFC debut for this guy did not go as planned, but a lot of people are really excited about this young British prospect here. He trains at the gym with Leon Edwards, who, just brought a belt back to the gym. So I'm sure a whole lot of those guys are excited for their next fight. He looks in great shape online. He has that arrogance, about him and stuff, that cockiness to him. Former Cage Warriors champion, and Dana seemed to kind of like him and give him a chance, signing him, coming off of a missing weight on the Contender Series. So Dana kind of sees something in him, and I think his team on the surface sees something in this matchup that they like stylistically. You see Tetsuro Taira just beat Candelario by the same style that Jake Hadley looks to implement in most of his fights, but the guy got the taste of humble pie that I was glad that he got, to be honest with you. And I think, I just kind of go back to the stylistic of this fight. If Hadley gets the fight down to the mat, it could go kind of similar, but at the same time, man, Hadley he was a good offensive grappler, but when it came to defending takedowns or getting off his back of his own, he didn't have much for him, man. So I'm not parlaying this guy. I've seen him drop the ball as a big, heavy favorite before, but I am curious, to see if this second performance is any better than that debut performance.
Struggled to pick an underdog for this card, but I am going to go with Jinh Yu Frey. She's taking on my girl Polyana Viana, but I do think that Jinh Yu Frey has the tools to win this fight. First and foremost, I think that she is going to look to get this fight to the mat. Polyana Viana, although she is tricky with her submissions off her back, she also tends to give up rounds laying on her back. Jinh Yu Frey, she's had to rely on her grappling a few times in her UFC career to win her fights, and it usually comes later than I'd prefer it to. So in this fight, I'd like for her to try and get this fight to the mat early and often. At 37 years old and being the Invicta Atomweight champion, I do think that she's going to be undersized here. Polyana Viana is a very tall girl, but her lack of takedown defense is definitely worrisome and an opening for Jinh Yu Frey to capitalize on. Frey having losses to Demopoulos and Loma Lookboonmee, two girls who, I don't know, it's tough to take losses on those. And Kay Hansen. I could see this fight looking a whole lot like Ashley Yoder, where the longer, taller fighter is just able to keep the fight on the feet and kind of pick away. But I do think that Jinh Yu Frey, after taking a few of those shots, she has great durability. Hopefully that'll wake her up to get the fight to the mat. And I do think that she's capable of winning a tight decision. So her being an underdog, I am going to take her, although I'm not completely confident on it.
If she can stay away from the first round armbar, she takes it as a dog, man. Taking a female underdog as well, and Ramona Pascal. Not really overly excited about my one-unit shot on her because she's already burnt me twice as an underdog in the past. But low-level women's MMA, man, I feel like the value is on the dog already. And then you watch Vidal on the regional scene, the 4 fights they got on the tape study, on Tape Index, and I'm less than impressed with her, to be honest. You also look at Ramona's first 2, UFC fights. They don't go the way she wanted, but dude, Josiana Nunez, 2-0 in the UFC. Jocelyn Edwards, another girl proving she can get UFC wins. She trains at a Syndicate MMA. You got the other girl who is just now making her flight on Wednesday to Vegas. I'm sure the weight cut's not going to be fun. Ramona is in Vegas already, and she's normally a 145 or so. Making this cut to 135 is probably the weight class that's been her goal for the longest time. She's probably going to be the bigger, stronger girl in the grappling. You saw her hurt Jocelyn Edwards in the clinch with the body shot. I think she's a better wrestler, better clinch fighter. And she got rocked by Josiana Nunez and was still able to eat a shot. I like her durability. With Vidal, sure, she's 24. There's time to improve. But right now, I don't really see the skills to even warrant a roster spot for her. She just swings overhands. I don't like the cardio. You see her just selling out for guillotines and heel hooks and putting herself in bad spots. I'm not ecstatic about it, but I'm going to join the crew here. It's a numbers game. I got plus 135. I think Ramona has some value sitting on it.
For my prop bet of the card, I have taken Marina Rodriguez in the main event to win by TKO. It's sitting at plus 350 on Bet Online. A lot of the other places, it's plus 225. I think that the price is right here. I think that the defenses are going to open up a lot as the fight goes on for Amanda Lemos. She's going to slow down significantly. And Marina Rodriguez's technique and length, I think, will be able to, or give her the ability to touch her while not being touched in the later rounds. And eventually she's going to find that front kick up the middle or just the straight right that's going to connect on Lemos. Lemos has been finished twice now. And we've seen her finish on the feet against Leslie Smith. Yeah. I do think that it being 115 pounds, it's a little bit risky, but I think that, like I said, the price is right. Marina Rodriguez by TKO.
I don't hate it one bit, man. That's the side I lean to as well. I'm going to go Miranda Maverick inside the distance at plus 120. I know it's a female fight, which is probably influencing the line a little bit, but we're talking about a minus 650. I think the biggest favorite on the card, plus money inside the distance. I think that's worth a shot out of principle, but how about you just look a couple years back where she finishes Shayna Young in round 1 with the rear naked choke, and if you want the same repeat first round sub, you can get plus 375 of that with Miranda Maverick. I personally just think, man, that she rolls here. I like backing her. I've backed her quite a few times. Young prospect at 25 who's fought a tremendous amount of competition, always in great shape, and she knows when to strike, she knows when to grapple, and it really does seem like she's fallen in love with that grappling, and she's really been implementing it in her game plans a lot lately. She's moved her camp out to Colorado, working alongside Raquel Pennington, Lauren Murphy, like really good talent for a 25-year-old to really grow and improve. And I think it's 100% without a doubt saying that she is the one that's most improved since their first meeting as well. So I think Miranda Maverick rolls with the grappling, but I think there's also a possibility she can put Shayna Young in just a bad position, and ground and pound her out as well. But I think it goes like the Sabina Mazo fight, man. She's a little bit outsized on the feet. She's just not going to even waste time with it. Let's look for that takedown. Let's look for the submission. Maverick inside the distance for my prop.
For my best bet of the card, I will be taking fight doesn't go to decision minus 135 for the main event. I think it's a great way to cover both sides, depending on how you see it. I think Lemos' winning upside is definitely in the first couple rounds when she still holds that fight finishing power. Mm-hmm. She's been devastating and has gotten the majority of her wins inside those first 2 rounds. And we've seen Marina Rodriguez be able to eat some shots. She hasn't shown durability issues, but she's definitely been shown that she is hittable. Mm-hmm. And I think somebody that carries the power of Lemos, it's definitely something you have to watch out for. At the same time, Marina Rodriguez, we've touched on it a little bit on this podcast, but as that fight extends, she's just going to continue with her pace. We've shown that she can keep that pace for 25 minutes, and I think that it'll really open up as Lemos starts to slow down, lacks the head movement, lacks the defense. So both girls have finishing upside, in my opinion. I know it's 115-pound girls, but at the same time, I think both of their win probability is a lot on the side of this ending inside the distance. So fight doesn't go to decision, minus 135.
I dig it with these two girls, man. Best bet for me, Tagir Ulanbekov. I got it minus 180. I'm going to go back to the well with my guy here after, kind of getting robbed last time out against Tim Elliott. Tagir really honestly should be undefeated because, the fight against Zimagulov was even more of a robbery than the last one against Tim Elliott. But you see me back this style of guy all the time. The Dagestani wrestler, man. It's so easy for me to put my money on him. I know the game plan, and I know they're not going to deviate from the game plan. He's a better wrestler than probably 90-95% of the division, and a much better wrestler than Nate Maness here. And you got to also include that, Habib in the camp just game plan for Nate Maness with Umar Nurmagomedov last time out. So they know what they got to do to beat this guy. And, was just grounded for 3 rounds straight with Umar. Gave up more than 10 minutes of control time against Johnny Munoz Jr., losing to Gravely, getting saved by the bell. I don't like a lot of what I see from Maness. I don't like his get-up game, accepting bottom position, and I really don't like this 5'10" guy trying to cut an extra 10 pounds here to go down to flyweight. I don't like it for your chin. I don't like it for your cardio, and I do favor Tagir a lot here. And I will acknowledge the fact that Tagir has hardly ever covered his price tag in the UFC, but I'm also getting minus 180 here, which is the best price tag you've gotten. Tim Elliott, let's just throw it out there, man. The dude was cheating a little bit regardless. Still a close fight.
Gloves part of the hand.
Gloves part of the hand, I guess. But in the same breath, Bruno Silva and Alan Nascimento, I think, have proven to be better fighters than they were originally thought out to be and stuff, And so close fights with them don't look as bad as they originally did on paper. I got a 30-27 win for Tagir here. If there was anything finishing upside from him, and I didn't think I was going to have to win this on the scorecards. Might have more than 2 units on him. I like Tagir here for my best bet.
Moving on to our quick pick section of the podcast, we start off the night in the women's bantamweight division where we see Ramona Pascual taking on Tamirez Vidal. After watching that Vidal tape, I understand all of the Ramona love. I guess I'm gonna follow you on your underdog pick. I'm gonna go with Ramona as well.
Yeah, starting out with a banger, dude. Ramona Pascual for my pick as well. Jake Hadley taking on Carlos Candelario. Look, I'm not playing Jake, but styles do make fights. I've seen the style cause Carlos trouble, so Hadley's the pick. Don't lay that juice, though.
Yeah, I think the UFC's being sneaky and giving Hadley another tough fight. I'm actually going the Carlos Candelario side here. Going to the men's bantamweight division, Johnny Munoz Jr. versus Ludovic Sholinian. Ludovic didn't do much of what was expected of him on the Ultimate Fighter. I think that that's probably going to continue. I've got Johnny Munoz Jr. here.
I think I got Johnny Munoz Jr. as well, but no action for me. Jinu Fry taking on Polyana Viana, women's strawweight. Dude, strictly due to the finishing upside, I think I'm going to side with Polyana Viana. I think if Jinu Fry does take this to the mat, I think she's playing with fire, and I think we're going to see much like that Whitmire fight where it's going the other girl's way, and then here comes the armbar out of nowhere. Polyana Viana, first round sub. Might play it at plus 900 or whatever it is.
Yeah, man. I don't know. I have a tough time calling this fight. Jinu Fry was my underdog, but that's because I didn't have very many underdogs on this card. I'll probably go Jinu Fry here, as I think that she's probably the more well-rounded of the two. We'll move on to the men's bantamweight, Mario Bautista versus Benito Lopez. Another one where I think it's going to be a really close fight. I'm going to side with Bautista just because of the activity. So yeah, Bautista for me.
I've got in on Bautista, man, but at the same time, I'm almost not liking it because he's becoming a bit mushy this week, But I see a ton of paths to victory for him, and I don't like that layoff. Bautista for the pick. Miranda Maverick taking on Shayna Young in a rematch. I think Miranda Maverick rolls with another first or second round submission.
I think Miranda Maverick also gets the job done. Yeah, I like her as well. Moving on to the featherweight division, Derek Minner taking on Shailen Nurdenbeke. I'm gonna go with the American here, Derek Minner. Not a true breakdown. I'll have to give this fight a little bit more time in the future, but for now, I'll take Derek Minner.
I'm with you. I haven't done my due diligence, more or less because I have no desire to bet it. As these guys are just going to grapple, and I don't know who's going to win. And Derek Minner never sees a scorecard, so man, who knows?
Stick with the American.
That's right, Derek Minner, baby. Let's go. Starting off our main card, we got Marco Madsen taking on Grant Dawson. I don't like the line. I really don't. But Grant Dawson's going to be the pick.
Yeah, I'm also going to go with Grant Dawson here. Like you said, the line's a little off. Tagir Ulanbekov versus Nate Maness in the flyweight division. Nate Maness is going to be a huge flyweight. I think that this is going to be a really tough fight. Like you said, this is the best price tag you've gotten on Tagir Ulanbekov since he's been in the UFC. And this might be a pretty good buy low spot for him. I'm going to go Tagir Ulanbekov.
Yeah, best bet, no shock here. Tagir for the pick. Josh Parisian taking on Chase Sherman. Why they put these low-level heavyweights on in the main card, I will never know. I told you come Saturday, part of me feels like Chase Sherman could be the easiest bet on the card, but I don't want to lay that juice on that guy either, man. Chase Sherman for the pick.
Yeah, people's main event. I'd hate to be laying the juice on Chase Sherman for him to wind up underneath Josh Parisian. I think I'm going to take Josh Parisian. I just think he could probably mix up his game a little bit more than Chase Sherman. In the co-main event, we have Neil Magny versus Daniel Rodriguez. Ooh, real tough one for me to bet. I think Magny has the more paths to victory, so I'm going to lean on his side, but I do think the odds are correct.
Yeah, pass for me as well, but I will lean with the Neil Magny decision. And then in the main event, Marina Rodriguez taking on Amanda Lemos. I really like your bet of not going the distance. I'm going to go with Marina Rodriguez, man. I just like that experience down the stretch, the competition, and I think she's going to take over this fight late.
Yeah, I'm more than willing to pay the price to see Lemos do something she's never done before and go 25 minutes. So I'm on the Marina Rodriguez side.
Sweet. Appreciate you guys tuning in, watching the podcast with us. Total of 12, 13 fights, kind of up in the air right now. And they also start prelims 4 p.m. Eastern on Saturday. We'll see you guys next week.
Peace.